Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this special edition of Durbanites FPL Game Week 18 review and Game Week 19 preview. Because of the quick game weeks, we're going with a new style format here so that we can get refreshed every 2 days. So, starting off with the table, a new log leader once again. So, Fataliteam for the second time taking the number one spot after a very good week. Dora, the scorer, slipping again, but still within touching distance. So, it is very, very close. Other than that, everything remains pretty stable. Big move is here with the Squish moving off 9th spot into 8th spot, so starting to move, and Coconut Stanley getting very close to moving off the bottom spot. Looking at the play selections for this week, the staples, Kieran Trippier still holding strong, 9 out of 10. Ollie Watkins making a big return with a favorable fixture there, 8 out of 10. Mo Salah slipping slightly with a tough one against Arsenal. Same for Saka and Saliba. Looking at the differentiators, and there's quite a few this week. Martin Odegaard from 1 out of 10, Pascal Gross, Gabriel from Arsenal, Chris Wood, all of them owned by 1 out of 10. Douglas Luiz and Richarlison owned by 2 out of 10, having an impact on the scores. And then the big one, Dominic Solanke, 3 out of 10, scoring big time with him. Let's look at our hits and misses for this week that went past. One big hit here, so Mohamed Sadiq going big and captaining Dominic Solanke after he hit that hat-trick, 34 massive points, helping him to get to number one. Looking at the misses, there's two that we're calling out. Number one is Hassan Ahmed, who put in 6 players from Arsenal versus Liverpool and ended up with just 9 points from 5 of those players. And then Mob seems to have taken his eye off the wheel here, so only 30 points this week with a very lucky save from Chris Wood, coming up with 11 points to help him there off the bench. Now, looking at the best possible selection for our team, right at the back, Areola with 8, a great performance against Manchester United. Then Gabriel, Kufal, and Sanso been really attacking this week just with a 3-5-2. Odegaard, Douglas Luiz, Bowen, Richarlison, and Gross. Look at that average across that midfield, really big. And then the star of the week, Dominic Solanke, with that hat trick on 34 as the captain. And then Chris Wood coming in with 11. So looking at that team, would have been 114 points without the bench, and not a very strong bench this week. Saliba, Mengi, and Watkins just adding with Vicario there 15 to that total at a total cost of 92.1 is really good. Now let's go into the game week reviews. So Crystal Palace here still without their first choice keeper. Johnston looks like he might be back, but maybe out for one further week. And Edward is still out. But Ayu, Izzy, and Elise are still good choices. Chelsea has been in such, let's say, inconsistent form that it's very possible that they could get something here. Now looking at Brighton have been a bit out of sorts, missing a lot of key players, Stupin and March and Ansu Fati. Still, Pascal Gross is pulling them through some tough times, and Kalmatoma remains a threat, but not really strongly backing them this week against the Spurs team. They're looking to be resurging. Now, looking at Villa versus Sheffield United, Villa have a tough one against a Manchester United team that can beat the best when they want to, but seem not to want to most of the time. They have Matty Cash suspended and Pau Torres still doubtful, but Watkins, Douglas Luiz, Diaby, Bailey, and again such a strong midfield at Villa, and Watkins up front really showing good form this season, might be worth a look at. Looking at Sheffield United, Bogle is out, suspended for this one, so that's a bit tough. And then looking at McAtee, Harmer, and Archer, who have all been in good form, Luton is a good chance for them to pick up 3 points. Looking at West Ham, they beat Manchester United quite comfortably 2-0. Jared Bowen, once again, really good, and Mohamed Kudus really settling into that forward role. So looking at what we're doing here, Antonio is out as an established forward, but then you've got Kudus backing him up there. Bowen, Ward-Prowse, Paqueta, they're really forming a strong supply line to the goals, so looking good, but Arsenal is going to be a tough test for them this week. Now looking at Manchester United, again still plagued by injuries, so you can see a long list of injuries there, and quite a few players are still doubtful. Looking at picks, Bruno always seems to be a good supply line for points. McTominay could always surprise, and he's really cheap to bolster midfield. And Christian Eriksen coming back from injury might just give you that little bit of creativity against Aston Villa, but not strongly supporting any of them for this week. Now, looking at Fulham, they were surprised by Burnley, but they're still missing Raul Jimenez, who was in really good form before his injury. Willian is now doubtful as well after picking up a knock. You could still go for Andres Pereira and Willian if you want to take the chance, and Bernd Leno as a keeper. But they have Bournemouth coming up this week. Solanke's in good form, coming off a high. Might not be the best time to go with him. Looking at Burnley, they have Liverpool this week, so Kolyosho still out from midfield, and Odegaard had a good weekend with a goal and an assist. It's the first time that he's actually managed to score something, and Lyle Foster coming back to provide an assist, so doing really, really well. But against Liverpool, again, not strongly recommending that you go with these players. Now, looking at Luton Newcastle, what an upset this was. Luton definitely holding strong at their home ground. They've got no major injuries to speak about, except for, of course, Tom Lockyer, who's still recovering after that heart attack on the field. But Andros Townsend, Ross Barkley, these are two matured contenders at Premier League level, really doing well last week. And then you've got Carlton Morris, of course, who's always a good goal threat, and they take on Sheffield United this week, so definitely a chance for them to grab points as well. Looking at Newcastle, we've now hit the halfway point of the season at game week 19, which means their horror list of fixtures start again from game week 20. Looking at Liverpool and Manchester City back to back, this might be the best chance for them to grab some points before going into that run. Nick Pope is still out, Joe Linton is still doubtful, Anderson and Barnes are still out, but they do have a lot more coming back. Trippier is still, and Gordon are all these threats. Isak is now back and fully fit, as well as Callum Wilson. They will need to get points from this outing. You might want to look for them as a strong contender for your captain as well. And then I would suggest start looking at moving them out over the next couple of weeks. Nottingham Forest putting up a good fight against Bournemouth, but that resulted in Bowley now being suspended this week. Sergio is still doubtful, and Awani is out until February. Ilanga and Gibbs White still remain the most consistent way to get into the points, as you can see from last week's matches as well. When it comes to Bournemouth, really nothing much to say here. They had a great week, and Neto as goalkeeper has proved to be, let's say, fairly consistent. And with Fulham this week, they might have a chance to pull out a clean sheet because they have no major injuries. Looking at the midfield that can provide the points for you, Tavernier and Billings definitely a good source of points coming through and crosses. And then Solanke, who's on sublime form at this moment in time, would definitely recommend putting him in the team at least for the next week. And then, of course, some tough fixtures coming up where you might consider him as a backup bencher or even moving off the team. Looking at Tottenham Everton, Spurs managing to pull off that win after a few close ones. They're still struggling a bit with Van de Ven, Madison, and Bissouma out. What that's doing is it's pushing Son further into midfield, and although he's scoring, he's not always able to pull off the results. But now we've got Richarlison coming into great form, and Kulichevsky as well, so giving him some support there in midfield and doing really well. Pedro Porro's been pretty solid at the back, having more than 5 points in the last 3 weeks, so looking really good. And then looking at Everton, they're coming out of a tough time and tough selections as well. Manchester City coming up this week, just recently after winning the Club World Cup Championship, so I would not recommend anyone, but McNeil's been having a consistent good time if you're looking for a filler for your team, and Ducouré still out, and he's still the best point scorer, even being out after a couple of weeks. So yeah, I would suggest miss on Everton this week, but just keep them in mind. Now looking at Liverpool and Arsenal, this was a tough competition. Liverpool have McAllister still out. Diego Jota now joins him, and now Luis Diaz is doubtful in midfield. But they have Burnley this week, and I don't think they'll have too many concerns on, let's say, filling those spots. Mo Salah still always dangerous, now gone up to 13.2, so almost a million more than when he started. And Alexander Arnold playing in an inverted wingback position is definitely a goal threat. Both very expensive, but if you've got the money, good additions to the team. The strikers at Liverpool haven't really been doing much, so I'm not recommending them. Looking at Arsenal, they still have Tomiyasu out and Thomas Partey, but now have to add Kai Havertz to that, so he's suspended out of that midfield. Of course, Saliba, Zinchenko, these guys have been really solid at the back. Gabriel also scoring last week, so maybe worth a look. Saka's the one that's been the most consistent for them week after week, and Odegaard coming in with the captain's performance there, picking up 8 points last week, so well worth a look. Gabby Jesus is also looking dangerous, although he doesn't have the points to show for it just yet. He is always dangerous, and looking at the next 3 weeks with the West Ham, Fulham, and Crystal Palace ahead, I would definitely strongly recommend him. Then looking at Wolves and Chelsea, so a surprise result here, if you would say. For Wolves, they still have Jose Sa out, and Neto in the midfield still doubtful, but Chan, Neto, if he is fully fit, and Cunha are definitely ways for them to get points. So really a good team effort from them on the weekend to beat Chelsea. And Chelsea struggling a bit. Robert Sanchez is out. Reece James, the captain, is still out. So is Ben Chilwell. So two really good attacking lines from the back are now compromised. Raheem Sterling is now suspended this week, as is Cole Palmer. So that midfield is looking a bit weak at this moment in time. So you got to look at Mikhailo Mudryk, Conor Gallagher. These guys will put in a shift this week, as well as probably Enzo Fernandez. One important thing to call out here is that Chris Nkunku is back. So the forward is back, playing his first game for Chelsea, only 30 minutes on the field and scored a goal. So definitely want to look at this. Is why Chelsea brought him in. He's a proven goal scorer. They've got still 3 weeks to pull in some good points here, and I think if they want to do that, they're going to look at playing Nkunku a lot more. And my recommendation, if you want to put a Chelsea play in, he's a great pick as a forward. Now, looking at the game that didn't happen, Manchester City and Brentford didn't play this week because of Manchester City's involvement in the Club World Cup Championship, which they won. But they're going to come back with 2 strong games against Everton and Sheffield United. Looking at Brentford first, they have Mbuemo still out, Matty Jensen is still out, Matthias Jensen is still out, or doubtful Kevin Skade as well. So not really picking anyone to go up against Manchester City this week. And then looking at Brentford, looking at Manchester City themselves, they've got a few doubtful. There's Rodrigo still doubtful, Doku as well. But then more importantly, Kevin De Bruyne is back in training and has a 50% chance of playing, if not starting on this game. Now, if you look at Manchester City, they've got 3 good fixtures coming up ahead, and might be worthwhile for you to look at Kevin De Bruyne as one of those players coming in. And Erling Haaland still got the injury on his foot, but he has not played in the Club World Cup Championship that much, but might be back for this game. In case he's not, my pick for this one is Julian Alvarez, who's done really well in the Club World Cup Championships as well, and definitely well worth a look. So looking at the fixture rating, let's look at the teams that will have a fairly good run in the next 3 weeks. Arsenal and Brentford and Chelsea, really favourable fixtures coming their way, as well as Manchester City now, and Liverpool, which is having that Newcastle fixture in the middle there, but looking at still favourable fixtures, as well as Aston Villa, who are in great form. Then looking at the ones to be cautious about, Crystal Palace and Spurs are really heading into a bit of tough times, as well as Burnley, West Ham, and Nottingham Forest. So some really tough fixtures here. Maybe look at putting those players on the bench or removing them all together. So that was it for this week, guys. It's going to be a very short game week. There should be another video coming out on Friday after the next 3 days of games. So wishing you all good luck, and let's see what will happen. Please, again, don't forget to drop me a like, subscribe, drop me a comment if you on what you think about this format of the game or of the videos, and let's see what happens in the next game week. So much for now.